Okay, so welcome back to our regular council meeting. We're having some technical difficulties, and at this point, we're going to be doing audio only with those participants who are on Zoom, including Councillor Vervoort. We have no video feed with people. So I know we do have one delegation booked for this evening. Just trying to find the item here. Lois Wallace, item 8.2. I think Lois is on the Zoom call right now, and I'm not sure, Lois, if you can hear us.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Lois, given the fact that we don't have proper video and we've had these technical challenges, we're going to defer your delegation to our next council meeting, which is February 18th.
Heather, I would be happy to read it right now and just go with the audio.
Okay, if you're comfortable.
I would like to do that.
Okay, I respect that. That's fair. I wanted to give you the opportunity to present. Now,
Okay.
so before you say right now, tonight, we do have a couple of loose ends to wrap up from item 8.1 in our public meeting. So I will call on you momentarily then, Lois, at the appropriate time in the agenda. So just sit.
Okay, I hope it's soon.
Sit tight for a moment as we finish up a couple of other procedural items. And then Councillor Vervoort, I just want to confirm that you can hear us as well.
Yes, I can indeed. Can you hear me okay there?
We can, yeah.
Perfect.
Good. We are making this work. Okay, so we did have some questions come from the gallery under section 8.1, the public meeting. And I'll just ask one more time if there are any other questions from the gallery that we're looking to address. I don't see any hands up or anybody jumping up. So with that, we'll look for a motion to receive the draft budget presentation from the treasurer, as well as all of the comments. Oh, sorry, and that we close the public meeting. I missed that part. Sorry. Somebody want to make that motion? Sorry, Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Johnston. All in favor? And that motion carries. Councillor Vervoort, given that we don't have, I heard him say yes. Okay, we've got audio on you. Please just pipe up as you have been. Thank you. Okay, so we do have, Mr. Kramer, a number of items on the draft budget presentation that we had put for consensus. I don't know, I guess we can't pull those up on screen, but council, we have them in our agenda packages as well. We would be looking for a motion then to approve the items that we agreed to by consensus that were in the budget. And then the ones that we will be discussing for debate will happen on February 18th still.
Also.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Watt. All in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so on with item 8.2, our delegation from Lois Wallace with the Environment Council for Clear, Stony and White Lakes, with concerns regarding proposed subdivision at Halls Glen on County Road 6. As well as I will hand it over to you to read through your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Watson. I trust you can hear me.
We most certainly can. Yes, thank you.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank Martina and Christina and also the County Planning Department for all their help with documents. The purpose of my delegation on behalf of the Environment Council is to update our January 20th letter and to reiterate our main concerns about the planned subdivision at Halls Glen. I'm adding a number of specific references to back up the points made in my request for delegation. There was very little time to research this issue before we submitted our letter. But since then, we've been able to review almost all the project-related documents, including those regarding notification about and approval of zoning bylaw amendment number 2018-45. We're satisfied that the township's public notification process was carried out in accord with the Planning Act. And it's clear to us that the March 25th, 2021 decision of the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, which dismissed the appeal of the zoning, is final. So we withdraw the first two bullet points recommendations in our January 20th letter. The rest of our letter still stands. We remain concerned about three key issues. The very real possibility that the 52 new wells planned for the subdivision will severely impact the well water supplies of existing residences. The potential for migration of contaminants from septic systems, and possible impacts of the development on important wetlands on site. I'll address the water supply issue first. Our research revealed that the project hydrogeological studies and reports are even older than we had been told. The first hydrogeological report by Genevar dates from June 2012, and the first Stantec peer review of it from November 2012. This was followed by a Genevar response in March 2013 and a second Stantec peer response in May 2013, all 12 years ago or more. And the concern about impacts of the development on the neighbors' water supplies has been ignored ever since 2012. Stantec's 2012 peer review questioned the adequacy of Genevar's information about potential impacts on existing neighborhood wells. But Genevar's response showed no new field work done on this. Instead, Genevar's response referred back to Ministry of Environment review in the early 1990s and its draft approval in 1994, 30 years ago. The text I sent you yesterday mistakenly said 20 years. In fact, it's 30 years, which is even worse. And the ministry did not consider off-site impacts, only on-site water supplies, septic systems, and the potential for cross-contamination, as shown in letters from MOE to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in 1993-94, which are attached to Genevar's second report. We have many questions about the Ministry of Environment's very outdated review and draft approval. One of the MOE letters to Municipal Affairs refers to the use of MOE guidelines for hydrogeological assessment prior to August 6, 1991. The ministry's draft approval predated its own technical guideline for private wells, water supply assessment, August 1996. And the ministry would have relied on Ontario Regulation 903 from 1990 regarding wells, which was amended in December 2019 to become Regulation 46119. So our question is this 30-year-old ministry review and approval in line with today's standards? We're not able to examine this fully, but the appropriate approval authorities need to do so. It is imperative that this original approval be closely re-examined because the ministry's approval was predicated on three conditions being met. The very conditions, 12, 13, and 14, listed in the county's current conditions report, which is in your agenda package. We believe the basis for conditions 12 and 14 can and must be re-examined. If the 1994 requirements for hydrogeological assessments and wells are outdated, these conditions must be revised to provide protection according to today's standards. The County Planning Department has told us that conditions can and do change because of the passage of time and changes in legislative requirements. The county's conditions report, last revised May 13th, 2024, states in condition 12 that to decrease the potential for cross-contamination of wells, the well should be drilled as deep as possible, minimum 12 meters. Condition 14 states that prior to the issuance of building permits, a hydrogeologist shall certify that each lot is capable of supplying water of acceptable quality and in sufficient quantity. Condition 14 is of no use with respect to potential septic system impacts on water quality because the septics wouldn't be in operation when the hydrogeologist does the well tests. All of this clearly shows that there is uncertainty about the quality and quantity of water supply for the site, and therefore for the surrounding area. The groundwater flow in the area is from southeast to northwest, as stated in Genovar's 2012 report. So it is quite probable that 52 new deep wells would drain water away from nearby residents' existing wells. We are concerned also about the potential for septic contamination of stormwater runoff into the wetlands in the environmental conservation zone. The wetlands are to be used for stormwater retention. And there's nothing to prevent individual new homeowners from removing trees and shrubs, then putting in lawns and fertilizing them. Runoff from the site could over-nutrify and damage the important wetlands. So all parties need to work together to ensure that stormwater is rigorously monitored. Bear in mind that under Condition 10, the township will own and have responsibility for the environmental conservation zone, which shows as blocks 53, 54, and 55 on the subdivision plan, and for the stormwater management system. In closing, let me come back to the local community's concerns about their future water supplies. Given everything I've outlined, and especially the facts that the hydrogeological studies are 12 years old and the MOE draft approval is 30 years old, we again strongly recommend that the township and county require the developer to undertake a rigorous new hydrogeological study. This study needs to pay particular attention to potential impacts of the new development on the well water supplies of the existing community, and to the expected effects of climate change on water supplies for the development and for the surrounding area. This study should be done by an independent professional at the developer's cost and should be made a condition of approvals. We ask that council pass a motion now directing staff to consult with the county planning department and any other agencies necessary with two objectives. First, to require the developer to provide a new hydrogeological study prior to consideration of final approvals. And second, to have the appropriate authority re-examine whether the regulations on which MOE based its 1994 approval meet today's standards. The county conditions report makes it clear that the township is responsible for ensuring that the conditions regarding water supply and septic systems are satisfied. If the subdivision is built and issues arise afterward regarding its water supply or that of the surrounding residences, the township will be held responsible. The serious water supply concerns of the Halls Glen community have been ignored far too long. We urge you to take proactive steps now to ensure that a new hydrogeological study is undertaken and that the basis of the 1994 MOE approval is re-examined. We believe you owe it to the community and that it would be in the township's best long-term interests. Thank you. I will try to answer any questions. Hope I can chip in and comment if necessary as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wallace, for your presentation and for your patience while we've been having the technical difficulties this evening. I appreciate that. Council, any questions on the presentation of our speaker?
Well, that thing don't work anyway.
Might be turned off.
Oh. Yeah, through the chair. I would like to know, no matter what we do, where this stands as far as being able to reenact any other, anything else on this property. Like it been passed finally by the county and everything that we really can't ask for any more
Conditions?
conditions, whatever.
Ms. Coulter and Councillor, I'll ask you to turn off your microphone because we can only have two microphones on at one time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Johnson. Certainly the council can ask for revisions to draft plan conditions on a plan of subdivision. The request would go to the County of Peterborough. I think that council should be informed when making that request and to know exactly what your request will be and perhaps require a report from staff to support the request once it's made to the county PPRO.
So it can be done. We can require.
Through you, Mayor Watson, the subdivision does not have final approval. It is draft approved. So there's a number of conditions that the developer is working through to clear and then receive final approval. If council chooses to introduce another condition to those draft plan conditions, then that would be added and the developer would have to attempt to meet that before their lapsing date.
Counselor, other questions? You look like you're.
Well, how much, well, I don't know if I can talk to them, but how much time would we have to be able to do that? Like, can we come up with, if we wanted to and agree, I'm just speaking in terms of myself, but if we agree for another proposal that we would like something looked at, how much time do we have before they would be possibly having a final approval? Any idea?
Our CAO is going to weigh in on that.
Sure, through the mayor to Councillor Johnson. So what I recognize is that currently the draft approval includes up to 42 different conditions that this developer or the current owner of the property is working through to get themselves to final approval. I don't know exactly the time frame that it would take or how much more they require. What I can say is this, that they are very close to completing working through their conditions, number one. Number two, this draft plan approval has been extended or since 1994. They don't just get sort of blanket draft plan approval and it goes on forever. We put a time limit on that and it has to be reapproved over a period of time, over a series of years. So the current approvals are in place until September of 2025. Now that's when it would lapse. So that doesn't necessarily mean that can continue on. I think the reality would be is if our goal is to introduce, or council's goal is to introduce a new draft plan condition, there are a number of things that we would need to take into consideration. Number one, this draft plan approval lapses in September. There may not be enough time between now and that lapsing date to get the work done. And so we may have to make some considerations about extending those approvals beyond September of this year, number one. Number two, introducing new draft plan conditions is akin to going through a new, through some of that process again. And what it does is it encourages or allows for the developer or the applicant and the approval body to retain their appeal rights, which means that if we introduce a new draft plan condition and the applicant for final plan of subdivision does not agree with that, they are entitled to have that matter go before the Ontario Land Tribunal and have the province render a decision on that. So there's that possibility as well, just for your awareness. Okay. What I would recommend is if there is the will of council to re-examine this issue, I would suggest that you would need to refer that to staff so that we can bring a fulsome report on this matter.
Councillor Johnston?
Yeah, just thank you for that clarification. Now, therefore, I'm like last meeting, I'm more in favor, and I let the other councillors talk, but I'm more in favor of revisiting some of these items. And if we get some condolences from the rest of the council, then I think I would like to see it go back to the office and you guys coming up with some that we can appeal what we've been doing.
Okay, so you're prepared to make a motion then to refer it to staff to report back? Is that what you're looking to do?
If the rest of the council will let me do that.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor Watson.
It'd be lost in a way.
Okay, so I won't accept your motion yet because staff, or pardon me, council hasn't had an opportunity to ask questions of the presenter or staff on this. But when it comes time to take a motion, I'll come to you first. We have Councillor Vervoort. I heard piping up here looking to ask questions.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Watson, through you. Lois, thank you very much for a really informative presentation here, short, sweet, very much to the point. And thank you to Christina in particular for shedding some light on the process here. I think what this all gets down to, kind of to paraphrase some of Councillor Johnson's points here, where no one is opposed to development of property, but we do need to ensure that any development that is happening at today's standards and not going back 30 years, as Lois pointed out in her presentation there. So I feel that's the overall sentiment here, and if I can't see if other councillors have their hand up looking to make some comments, but I would be prepared to make a motion much in line with Councillor Johnson's comments as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vervoort. I do have Deputy Mayor Nelson who wants to make some comments or questions. Deputy Mayor? Please. Thank you.
Hi, Lois. Thanks a lot for your presentation, Lois. I have a couple of comments or stuff I would like to comment on this application, or what you're actually asking for. And I guess my first question is, Lois, is what's your accreditation when it comes to water or anything to do with this type of development? Do you have any accreditations?
I don't, but I have a background in working for 31 years for an engineering and scientific organization, and a lot of familiarity with technical reports, being able to turn them into everyday language. And I've also worked on behalf of the Environment Council, critiquing a number of major developments around the lake, including the Fraser development on the North Shore, which went to the OMB and was won by the community, and also the Pilgrim's Rest proposal a few years back. And more recently, I've been assisting the Lovesick Lake Association in their fight against the trailer park expansion. So I don't have technical accreditation, but I have quite a lot of experience on working on this kind of thing, and I've sought advice about process and so forth from the appropriate people.
Okay, thanks for answering that, Lois. Something further that I see in this whole application in my review is, even though that the water studies or the hydrology studies took place, you're saying 12 years ago, I believe there's been a lot of stuff that has actually held this up from the developer's perspective, has held this up that he has not gotten the final approval. But if I look at the water, this has actually been peer reviewed. It's been looked at by people, a lot of hydrologists, not me, or not somebody that doesn't know anything about this. It's been done by professional people, submitted, peer reviewed, and I think it's pretty blatant on us to cause another review that is going to come back with probably the exact same thing, but I can tell you it's going to cost the developer, what, $100,000, and people still will not be happy with them findings because they just don't want any growth within this township.
Mm-hmm.
And
if I may, Deputy Mayor, one of the things that I mentioned in my text is the response that came back from Genevar to the peer review by Stantec. And they didn't address the question of offsite impacts in that second response. They referred back to this 30-year-old MOE review. And it's hard to believe that the standards against which that MOE review was done haven't changed in 30 years. That is something that I think can be looked at on paper by the appropriate people with the right qualifications. And 12 years have passed since the original Geneva report. We know that our climate is changing. We have more periods of drought, and the local community have already experienced some difficulty with their wells. Plus, there's been more development down McCracken's Landing Road. There are new properties down there that have been developed and new wells. Certainly not the developer's fault, but these are all factors that I think need to be considered.
Thank you, Lois. Deputy Mayor, I'm going to ask our planner, Ms. Coulter, to we're just handling the microphones here, to perhaps address the concerns that you've raised, Ms. Wallace, about the 30 years and the regulations changing from MOE to MECP, and even the 12-year gap since that study was done. I'm hoping, Ms. Coulter, you can shed a little bit of light on the changes or the significance of the changes that have occurred.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Watson. I think staff would have to look into those changes because we don't have the all of the details. But I think, like any of the studies, council has to be aware of that. You could also open the door and request reviews of any of the other types of studies. So how long will this go on where we're wanting an environmental impact study reproduced, or we're wanting the stormwater management plan reproduced? Like, the studies were done and the peer review was signed off. So in Stantec's 2013 letter, they cleared all of their concerns and said they had no further concerns. They're operating as a third-party peer reviewer, not paid by the developer. And they're operating in the best interest of the township and the county when making that recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Coulter. And can you perhaps speak to item 12 that's in the draft site plan agreement that talks about the wells being drilled as deep as possible with a minimum of 12 meters? Is there, I believe at one point there was in the Hydro-G study some parameters or qualifications around why that recommendation specifically was being made for this, and perhaps that had something to do with the aquifer, like tapping into a different aquifer than the residents in the immediate area?
Through you, Mayor Watson, if I recall, the reasoning for the depth of the wells was identified so that it could be within a different water aquifer from some of the existing wells that are already present that were demonstrating some water quality issues. So there was no water quantity issues from what I read, but there were water quality issues in existing wells. And the advice of the MOE and then Stantec was that the wells should be drilled deeper so that they could avoid that existing aquifer.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments from council before I turn back to Councillor Johnston to have an opportunity to make that motion? Seeing nothing. Councillor Johnston?
Yes, I want to make a motion that we review the plan again and have our office people bring back some kind of a review on regarding the water. I'm more concerned about the wells than I am on, like, I'm not against the subdivision as far as, I don't know about the mountain homes, but we're not against growth. then, you know, but it's just the right place, with so much rock and so much problems that people already have. So I would like that reviewed again.
So I just want to be clear, like, like our staff aren't in the position to do a review of a
Well, to come
hydrogeological
back with
study.
some comments.
So it would be for staff to come back with a report on
Right.
what a request or draft site plan amendment would look like. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. And will anyone second that motion?
Mayor Watson, I would second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Now I'll take discussion, comments on the motion. Madam Clerk has her hand up. Sorry, everybody's pointing.
Apologies, Madam Mayor. I just want to clarify the motion so that I can capture it correctly. So through you to Councillor Johnson, who made the motion, would it be fair to interpret what you've said as being that the delegation from Lois, from the Environmental Council, regarding the concerns about the proposed subdivision on County Road 6 be received, and that staff be requested to review the questions listed in the delegation and bring a report back to council for review?
Yes, that summarizes, thank you.
And through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Vervoort, would you, do you continue to second that suggestion?
Through you, Mayor Watson, yes, I do second that.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that clarification, Madam Clerk. So now, any discussion on the motion? Nothing at all? All right, well, we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Yay.
And that motion does not carry. So with that, we will be looking for another motion, presumably a motion to receive the delegation.
I'll make the motion to receive the delegation with thanks.
Okay, Councillor Vervoort, and I'm assuming Deputy Mayor Nelson will be seconding
I'll second
that. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion also carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lois, for your presentation and again for your patience while we've been sorting out the technical difficulties here.
Okay, thank you all for listening and for your good questions and your serious consideration of what I presented.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving down the agenda, item number 9, we have a public comment period, but nobody had registered for that. We have no staff reports on the agenda. And on to item 11 with committee minutes and other reports, where we have a committee of adjustment meeting minutes of December 13th. Just a motion to receive those and approve. Councillor Watt and Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. And then we have 4 items on as correspondence as action items. We'll start with 12.1, Township of Pulsing. So we said that Pulsing?
Pulslinch.
Pulsage? Pulsage. Regarding top aggregate producing municipalities of Ontario, letter on pre-budget announcement. Council, what would you like to do with that?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and support.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Anyone want to second that? Councillor Johnson is seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? That motion carries. 12.2, Township of Woolwich, regarding election advocacy and preparation. Council, what would you like to do? First shattering decision.
I'd like to make a motion to receive.
All right, thank you, Councillor Vervoort, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. Any discussion? All in favor? I feel like everybody's just scrolling to catch up now. All in favor? It carries, we're good. City of Peterborough, hey, I know how to pronounce that one. Resolution Bill 242, Safer Municipalities Act 2024. Council, what would you like to do with this one?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and support.
Okay, anyone want to second that? Councillor Watt, any discussion? All in favor? That motion carries. Town of Halton Hills, request for support sovereignty of Canada. I feel like there's another word here.
I'd like to make a motion to receive.
Motion to receive is on the floor, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Okay, item 13.1, we have a bylaw to authorize the third and final reading of the franchise agreement between the Township of Douro-Dummer and Enbridge Gas. This is the agreement, I believe, that allows us to continue to service Enbridge Gas customers in the Donwood area predominantly, so that we can continue to let them access the roads or to do that work. Deputy Mayor Nelson makes that motion to approve the bylaw. Seconded by Councillor Johnston. All in favor? And that
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you. Any notices of motion? Seeing nothing. Any announcements? No announcements this evening. Seems so quiet in here. We have no closed session. On to our confirming bylaw. Councillor Watt, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor? That motion carries. And just to highlight a couple of our upcoming meetings, Wednesday, a little more than a week from now, we have our committee of the whole meeting beginning at 10 o'clock. And Tuesday, February 18th will be our regular council meeting, and that focuses the meeting where council will debate items that are on the budget as well. And lastly, just a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Johnston, all in favor, and that carries. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and
Thank you.
getting us through this evening's meeting. Have a good night.
Have a great night.